This is the second video about Allie's life. I've already previously posted a video about Allie, but I didn't have many of the details of her early life, so she agreed to meet with me again and tell me all about it. So here it is. I'll link the original video to the end of this one for those who haven't seen it yet. Thanks for watching. Hi, Allie. Thank you so much for meeting me today. How are you feeling today?
Okay. A little under the weather. The heat got to me today, so I fell asleep for a while, but I'm okay.
All right. Okay, good. What I was hoping to get is some details from your earlier life. What your childhood was like as far as your family situation. Did you have siblings? What were your parents like? What was school like? Things like that.
Well, I didn't have any siblings. Honestly, when I was young, my mother had my dad pass away when she was just about a year. Well, no, it was only 3 weeks after they got married. He was in the military. He joined the military, and she found out she was pregnant after he left. And back then, you had to spend a year in the military before you could get out, or it was a dishonorable discharge. So he spent another year, and he got out and came back, and they got married, and 3 weeks later he got into a car accident. So I was just over a year old, and he passed away. So she took it really hard. She started drinking quite heavily and left me with my grandmother quite often. And she didn't want to have any more children for quite a she actually just never got over it. She never had any more kids. So I didn't really have any siblings. My father's dad my grandfather on his side used to have me come and visit them in the summer in PEI for usually anywhere from 3 weeks to a month and a half. And I had cousins because I had an uncle that was a little bit older than my father, who's fire chief actually. So I had them to play with in the summertime, which was kind of cool. I traveled a lot when I was young. My mother didn't stay in one place very long. She used to leave me with my grandmother for quite a long time and to go to school because she was working in the bars, and she was not all that lively in the mornings because she was up all night, so she just found it easier to keep me with my grandmother.
Right.
And she'd pick me up on the weekends and take me to McDonald's and take me to where she worked, because she was working in a bar that was inside a hotel. And there was a swimming pool there, so I used to go swimming all the time there. So that's kind of a good memory for me.
Yeah.
But we ended up moving to Kingston for a while when I was 5. And that didn't work out very well, so we went back to New Brunswick where my grandmother was in Fredericton, and I stayed there. And she took off out to Vancouver to try and find more work. So yeah, she had me in Ontario for a while and then Vancouver. And we stayed out here for a few years. My grandmother sold her house in Fredericton and moved out here following us around because she was worried about me. And my mother's bouncing around a lot, so she came out, and I lived in North Van for a while and went to school there. I went to Ridgeway, and the other name of the school I went to is Queen Mary. That was a school that was a little more lenient. I got to kind of come and go out of the classroom as I pleased and work at my own pace, sort of thing, which was a different experience, but I did well. I found I wasn't very good with having structure. I was used to being allowed to do what I wanted because I was alone a lot. So they'd give me my assignments, and I just kind of go down the hall to they called it the plep room, and do my homework there and watch TV and play pool and that kind of thing.
How did you do in school?
I did mostly well. I range between C's and A's depending on the subject. I liked math and English. Science was okay. I wasn't really that great with chemistry. I had a hard time with the equations because it was funny. I could understand algebra and did really well with it, but then as soon as I tried to figure out the equations from chemistry, I just couldn't convert in my mind that being able to convert numbers from was okay, but trying to take letters and square them off and stuff, I just couldn't.
Got complicated.
Yeah. So chemistry wasn't my favorite class at all.
Yeah, mine neither.
But I enjoyed biology and nature type things.
Right.
Yeah, that was good. I used to like to go on some of the little expeditions they went on. We went out on field trips to the forest and stuff like that and learned about the trees and all of the different plants that were there. I thought that was interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to go on the zip ties in a place too. Nothing like Whistler though.
And was your relationship with your mother okay, even though, she was doing things that made her not available all the time?
I actually found myself looking for her attention a lot. I was a very good kid because I thought if I was really good that she would notice me more,
Yeah.
But she continued to drink as I was growing up, and it caused a little bit of a problem between us because as I got older, I started to get angry with her. She'd spend money on things, booze and stuff like that, and there wasn't any groceries in the house, and I used to get pissed off at her.
Right, well.
But I found ways to put groceries in the fridge myself. By the time I was 13, I was taking care of myself pretty much. We moved back to New Brunswick when I was 12, and when I was 13, I got in a fight with her because she had somebody trying to babysit me that wasn't a very good person, and she wasn't listening to me or believing me, and she kept trying to get this guy to watch me so she could.
There's a guy babysitting you?
Yeah, so she can stay and drink. And he was a bit of a pervert. So I tried to tell her that I didn't want him babysitting me or anything. And I didn't need a babysitter anyway because I pretty much I was cooking and everything by then. I was self-sufficient. She was only doing the babysitter thing to cover her ass because you had to be 13 or older to babysit legally.
Right,
to babysit
so you
yourself.
wouldn't be left alone.
So I hitchhiked across Canada.
Oh, at 13?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. And it took me about 2 weeks to get back out here. I stopped at a few places. Metallica was traveling across Canada at the same time. They had their Injustice for All tour going on. So I got to go to a concert a few times. I was getting I'd get ahead of them. Like, I'd hitchhike to the next city, and then a day later they'd be there. So I ended up going 4 or 5 times.
Metallica was part of your hitchhiking across the country.
Yeah, it was kind of.
At 13, wow.
Yeah. I don't know, I kind of enjoyed it. I didn't really have any bad experiences. Well, I guess I kind of did, but I was too young to really register how dangerous it was. I didn't go alone. I actually took a guy with me that was really mean looking. And I did it because of how horribly mean looking he was, because I knew that nobody was going to mess with me.
Oh, you're smart. You're looking after yourself.
He offered to take me out, and I said no at first, but then after a few minutes I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, this guy's big and ugly and mean looking, and we're going to have a hard time getting drives, but if we do get a drive, they're not going to screw with us.
Right.
So I took him with me, and with the intention of getting rid of him as soon as I got out here, which I did, but we hit Toronto, and there were some guys in a park there off of Yonge Street that were trying to buy me off of him. So
What happened with that?
Well, we dodged them. He took a down payment from them. I think it was like $300 or something. I'm not sure how much it was. But we were broke, so he took the money. And
the money and ran?
And I was up the road getting myself an order of French fries with the last of our money. And he came in and found me, and he's like, we gotta go right now. And I'm like, my French fries aren't ready. I'm hungry. You, I'm not leaving. So he's like, oh my God, you gotta go. We gotta go now. So I'm like, okay, fine. And the French fries got ready, and I grabbed them, and we took off on the bus. And he was freaking right out, watching like the bus stops everywhere we were going, like looking to see if the people that were after us were gonna get on the bus. And they didn't, luckily, but we had to find our way back out to the highway, and neither one of us knew our way around the city, so we were just trying to go by the seat of our pants and get the right buses.
Yeah.
And apparently they were going to pay him more money after he brought me back to them. But we ended up getting a couple $100 out of it, which was hotel money for us for a couple of days. So we did manage by the skin of our teeth to get out of there. That was fun.
So then you eventually made it all the way to BC?
Yeah, right here to Vancouver.
Okay, and then you stayed here for a long time?
Well, I have a grandmother here in North Vancouver, and I stayed with her for a couple of months. But I was a teenager, and it was getting hard on her. So my mother came out. She wanted to try and take me back to New Brunswick. And I was quite adamant that I wasn't going back and that I was going to be able to take care of myself because I was doing a pretty good job so far. And she was married to a new man by then who's military, so she got a free pass for plane tickets to get us back to New Brunswick. So she didn't have to pay for the trip to come out and get me. What I ended up doing is at the last minute when the plane showed up, I ditched her. I went to the bathroom and snuck back out without her seeing me and took off. So I sent her back home by herself, which was really awful. I felt bad about it because she was terrified of planes. Like really terrified of planes.
So she went back and you stayed?
And I stayed out here and I found a place to live. And I went to school up at Carson Graham for a while. And then, I'm not really sure what happened, but I decided to go back to New Brunswick after all. I think mostly I was just worried about how much stress I was putting on my grandmother. So I was aging her and I could see it. So I went back to New Brunswick to try and make it work there. But they treated me different after that too because, I wasn't a kid anymore. They tried to implement some curfews and stuff like that, and I mostly obeyed them, but now and then I didn't. I stayed out, and my stepfather was a bit of a control freak, so he got a little bit upset with me, and we didn't get along at all. So I ended up moving out of the house again. They were supposed to get posted to Bermuda, and if they had have taken that posting, I probably would have went because Bermuda is pretty awesome. They ended up getting posted to Comox, and I'm like, I don't want to go there. So I stayed behind with my boyfriend in Fredericton, and he ended up cheating on me, so I had nowhere to go. And I phoned up my mother and asked her if I could come stay with him again. She said, yeah, okay, as long as you behave yourself.
So back to BC you came?
Yeah. And I stayed there and finished school in Comox. When I was 16, I graduated.
So you graduated early?
Yeah, I did. I I didn't do very well, like, enclosed in a classroom, but it wasn't because I didn't enjoy doing the schoolwork. I just didn't like being around kids my own age. I didn't find I had much in common with them.
Right.
So I used to take my schoolwork to the park and do my schoolwork up, and I'd get my assignments on a Monday and then go hand them in on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, and have a 3-day weekend to myself after that.
So you were able to like finish school early. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I attended 56 classes in grade 12.
Wow. So you just taught yourself.
Yeah, I had to do my exams in the principal's office because I couldn't figure out why I was passing. I wasn't in school to learn. Like,
so they had to monitor you to see how it is that you were able to do your schoolwork, and you were able to, obviously.
Yeah, I figured it out.
So that's basically how your childhood went, and then after high school.
Well, I had my first daughter when I was 18. I met somebody when I was 16, just before I graduated, that I was in love with. He was my first real boyfriend. Well, I had a boyfriend that I was with in Fredericton, but I wasn't in love with him, really. It was more like a first crush kind of thing.
Right.
But then I met somebody else just before I graduated from school that I was really, really into. And I got pregnant. I didn't think I could get pregnant at the time for different reasons. But we had sex for a year without me getting pregnant, and then all of a sudden I got pregnant. And he wasn't the most responsible guy in the world. He was a drinker. And I was hoping he'd sober up a bit while I was pregnant, but he didn't. So I took an electronics program to try and start to get ready to, get some kind of decent employment to take care of the baby. And it didn't pan out that way. I didn't end up getting a job in that particular field, but they had me do a practicum in a printing company. So that was kind of different. I learned how to do bindery work, and I transferred all of their old files to a computer so that they could get rid of all the mess in their place. They had a lot of 30 years worth of handmade flyers and just all kinds of stuff that had to be digitalized and put into a computer.
Oh, so you did all that?
Yeah, I did all that. And it took me about 6 months to do that. And then I ran out of work with them because I was done the job. So I started working at a superstore. I was 18 by then. And we weren't getting along anymore because he wasn't there. He was always out drinking and partying and stuff. So we split up, and I raised my daughter on my own for a while, but I started working as an exotic dancer because I didn't have the education to get a very good job at the time, and it was just quick and easy money for me. So that's what I did. And that worked out for a while. I had a babysitter that used to travel with me and take care of my daughter when I was on stage. I did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up, funny enough, my ex sobered up after he found out that I wasn't going to go back to him. And I was so pissed off. I was like, if you had sobered up and done half the things that you did after I left you, before I left, we would have never split up. But he just had pushed me to the point where I hated him. So when you're young, you're pretty passionate about your feelings. It's hard to get through them. So I had her until she was about 4.5, 5. And then I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep her stable because it's a circuit of bars that I was working at, and I was traveling around all the time. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep her in one school. I'd be bouncing her around like a basketball. I went to over 30 schools. I can't even remember the names of some of the schools I went to. And I didn't want to have my daughter being bounced around like that.
Yeah.
Because I knew how hard it was on me. The fact that I graduated at 16 is pretty incredible because of how many schools I attended.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
But, like you said, I only had 2 demands of him when I came to her. It's like, do not, bounce her around. Keep her stable. And I was very adamant about him not being physical with her to chastise her. So, and he was pretty good for both of those things. So, I let him take custody for a while I was getting myself together. And I ended up meeting another guy and having another baby when I was 23. And her father passed away in a surfing accident when I was 6 months pregnant. So
That's harsh.
yeah, so it wasn't an easy thing to go through. I was pretty devastated. And another guy who seemed to be Prince Charming at the time, who met me when Michaela was just a few months old, and he pretty much took care of me. But I didn't ask too many questions about what he was doing. For the money he was using to take care of me, I didn't want to know. Head in the sand kind of thing. And it turned out that he wasn't all that legitimate in his endeavors. But I ended up getting pregnant with his child too. Okay. So now I had 2 more children at 25. And I decided that I wanted to sober up because I had started drinking and using a bit back then. And I went back to New Brunswick, and I actually had my business after that. I sobered up and I got my self-employed contract cleaning business going on. I was working cleaning large houses, millionaire houses actually, and they're campers and trailers, boats if they had them. And it was really good money, so I did okay.
So you cleaned yourself up, you stopped the drinking, and you were doing this business, doing all right.
Yeah.
And, that's good. And looking after your kids?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And I moved back out here again.
Yeah.
When my son was 15. And I figured they were old enough to be in the city and learn a few things without there being too much drama, When kids are really young around here, you have to be careful. You don't know who's going to be around to offer them what, or what kind of trouble they can get into. Yeah. And as a single parent, if you're working, you don't have time to keep an eye on them. It's just really tough. So I waited till they were quite a bit older and able to know a little bit more right from wrong kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I kept them back east for about 15 years and then came back here. And things went okay for a while. But, well, you know the rest.
Yeah. Right.
I gave you a bit of a rundown on what happened after that.
All right. Thank you so much, Allie. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you.